would like to call the Committee on Budget back to order. Members, we are on page 14, sort of in the middle. No, after, we are at Highways and Streets at DFM. Members, we have here but with the exception of overtime, we had the restoration of funding for salaries in the administration, as well as the restoration of salaries in road maintenance. And then we're restoring equipment for construction and repair equipment and highway funds, as well as highway funds for power-operated equipment under road maintenance in DFM as well. And then, are there any other questions for this page for DFM? Seeing none, DFM? Okay. So we're going to restore the funding, and then so we're now in ENV. We're accepting the deletion of activity for overtime. Council Vice Chair, we are accepting page 14, all of page 14. Okay, moving forward to page 15. Under ENV, with the exception of deleting the acceptance of the deletion of new activity called overtime, we are adding the current expenses for $800,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for billing and collection system upgrade for wastewater under sewer fund under current expenses. With us from the administration, I think we have either the Deputy Director, Michael O'Keefe, or Director Kawana, whomever, to discuss this addition for current expenses.
Aloha Budget.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Aloha Budget Chair, Mike O'Keefe, Deputy Director at Department of Environmental Services. So yeah, this is just, as noted in the comments, it's just funds to upgrade our sewer wastewater billing system so that ENV, our department, can take on more of a role in billing our wastewater customers. Currently, we rely on the Board of Water Supply to do a joint bill, a sewer and wastewater bill, but going forward in the next year or so, we're going to be splitting out on our own and doing a separate wastewater bill.
Okay, understood. So that means what is listed on the billing?
So correct. So what's going to be listed on the bill is just for will just be sewer charges, whereas right now it's water and wastewater charges, or water and sewer charges. So at a certain point in the near future, there'll be two bills.
Is there going to be a timeline for that to be implemented?
We're not exactly sure right now. So we're requesting funds for the next fiscal year to develop that program and stand up our billing function. We don't know an exact timeline right now, but we'll be happy to share that when we do.
Okay, Deputy Director, I know that this fund is restricted funds just for sewer funds, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So we cannot use it for general funds? No?
That's correct,
okay.
Cannot, yeah.
And then also, does this funding, the $800,000, then go to BWS?
No, this will be entirely for within ENV operations to fund its own system.
Understood. Thank you. Members, any questions? Once again, Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Deputy. Quick question. So the wisdom behind separating out the bills was what?
So we're currently working through a separation right now with Board of Water Supply. The board expressed a preference to have separate bills, and we're kind of talking through them about that with them now. Timeline, we don't have a firm timeline, as I just mentioned, but we're anticipating that's going to happen, hence the reason for the request.
Yeah, I would say that probably by taking you guys off, it will make the water bill look a lot better. I mean, the sewer charges added onto it just make it seem like a really large bill, but separating it out could maybe take off some heat off of both of your entities. Last question, I did reach out quite a few times, but just really still wanted to get information from you guys on the Ever Sewer District because I was supposed to have a handout to give to the community about how that would be transitioning. So I've emailed, just thought I'd bring it up one more time and see if we can't do something about that.
Yeah, thanks, council member. Understood, and we will get back to you on that. We're aware of the request. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, members. Any questions for the deputy director on this? Okay, I have a question. So when was that decision made to then separate it? Just wondering where it came from. When did it stem from?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the board notified us, I want to say around the beginning to middle of April. So just, within the past month. Yeah,
Okay.
just recently. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay, members, that's the main change that we have on page 15. I'm looking to accept that addition into the sewer fund. Any questions, further questions? Any concerns? Okay, moving forward, we'll accept that. Thank you, Deputy Director. Moving forward to page 16, we have the Office of Grants Management, where we are restoring the funding for restoring position and funding for salaries for early childhood division, and adding position funding for salaries to assist with grants compliance in community-based development, and that's the only change with the exception of deletion of overtime. Any questions, members? We're going to accept these. Members, any discussion? Okay, accepting. Thank you very much. Moving forward to page 17. Moving forward to urban forestry, we are adding funding for current expenses, or restoring funding. Or is it for restoring? Funding for current expenses for nursery, botanical supplies, and horticultural supplies in urban forestry. We are also restoring their funding for equipment for passenger vehicles, as well as their equipment for other motor vehicles, as well as their power-operated equipment. Next, we have the deletion of funding in the deletion of proviso. At least $425,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated to repair gymnasium roof and downspouts at Pearl City District Park. And then we have deletion of funding for current expenses and delete proviso. At least $25,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated to install a pedestrian gate to access Mananakai Neighborhood Park from Ho'ola Place. So deletion, we're accepting the deletion of those two at the bottom. Any questions? Okay? Any questions? Nope. Moving forward. Page 18. We're accepting the addition of $100,000 for out of current expenses to appropriate. We're only adding the proviso of $100,000 for current expenses shall be appropriated to expand and maintain security cameras in city parks. And then we're reducing funding for current expenses. We're going to accept but only delete proviso. So accept but delete proviso of at least $100,000 for out of current expenses shall be appropriated for amendment improvements to Newtown Neighborhood Park. Okay, thank you. Next, the next three have been moved. We're accepting and moving to CIP. The addition of funding for current expenses and the proviso of $100,000 out of current expenses to construct playground and to provide park improvements at Kaupuni Neighborhood Park, as well as $400,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for various park improvements at Black Rock Beach, as well as $400,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for various park improvements at Hurricane Pilia'au Community Park in Waianae into CIP as well. So those last three into CIP. Members, discussion? Members, any discussion? Okay, we're accepting these. Moving forward to page 19. We're adding funding for current expenses and ad proviso. We're accepting these and moving to the CIP. At least $400,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for various park improvements at Kalanianaole Beach Park, Waianae. I do want to note, though, those that have been accepted for deletion, those are already in CIP, okay? In the CD1. Okay, so top of page 19, so 400,000 to CIP. Moving forward, we're restoring the passenger vehicles for OC 4310 under recreation services. Next, we are accepting the addition for current expenses and provisoing of at least 400,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for refuse trucks to support the Department of Parks and Recreation. I am accepting the amendment and the amount, and we will be making the proviso language to be conforming language. So that is accepted. We're accepting the restoration of motor vehicles under grounds maintenance. We are also accepting the $109,000 out of equipment to be appropriated for 2 lightweight 5-gang fairway mowers for Parks District 4. Members, questions, comments on page 19? Okay. Oh, Councilmember Ki'aina. Would you like to call up DPR?
Yeah, I just would like to ask them their
Sure.
mana'o
Definitely.
on the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Ki'aina. Okay, Director Thielen.
Thank you, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire, members of the council, Laura Thielen on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation. So first of all, I'd like to say, again, we appreciate the commitment each and every one of you has for parks. The various things that you've proposed to put into the budget are all individually fantastic. We are here today to respectfully request an amendment of what is proposed, and let me explain why. We have certain pieces of equipment that we had in our budget which have not been restored. This equipment is essential to get some basic operations done, including some of the operations that you want to have done with the additions. And so if we can't get the equipment, we may not be able to move forward even with the additions. So for example, of the maintenance support services, one of the trucks that's not been restored is for the second work program coordinator. In the grounds maintenance, 6 of the trucks that have not been restored are for those special project units that we described and for which you folks are providing staffing for the second works coordinator and staffing for the special project units. If they don't have trucks, they're not going to be able to go out and to do that work. Some of the grounds maintenance equipment includes wide area mowers. So while you have an addition for a specialized mower in District 4, it'd be depriving District 4 of the more important mower and also District 3 and YPO. So I have taken the liberty, because I was listening to the conversation that you were having earlier with the frustrations about how to find the money. What we would need in order to restore this equipment is $1,987,530 in operating funds under Equipment E. You have in CD2 a $100,000 council ad and a $400,000 council ad that total up to $500,000. In CD1, you have a $150,000 council ad. And so if we put those together, that gets us up to about $650,000. There is also another council ad in CD2 that I think has been reduced from the original ad of, I'm sorry, CD1, $2,700,000 for the work program in MSS to be divided between the districts. If we cut the remainder of that to cover the cost of equipment, that would leave 1.3 million left in that ad, which, again, we hadn't asked for it. We have a base budget for maintenance support services of 8.7 million. So it would provide some resources for the council to be able to utilize some of that leftover money to restore other things that I know you folks are looking for the funds for. So altogether, I think we could identify through the additions a little over $3 million, and that could restore the equipment budget for DPR and leave some funding left over for the council. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if the council is, wants to move forward with consideration, we can put this into writing so we can point out the specific items.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know that you mentioned there's one item with 100,000, and then one item 400,000, and then another, and then the other was the bulk funding that would take care of MSS support for all 9 council districts. Is that correct?
Yes, in CD2, there is 2 ads, one on page 18 for 100,000 at the top of page 18, and one in the middle of page 19 for 400,000. Then in CD1, there is an ad for, sorry, got my numbers here, 150,000, and then also the 2.7 million. This would more than cover the equipment, and again, the equipment that we were looking to restore includes the truck for the new work coordinator position, the work project position. This is the MSS people that would be going out to do the master agreement contracts, inspecting the work, make sure the work's being done in accordance with the contracts. If that person can't be out at the site, they can't really do that job, or they can't do it well, so we don't want to have that problem. It includes the trucks for the special project units, which would provide the additional hours for grounds maintenance in Eva, Leeward, and District 5, the Pearl City Mililani area. It would include wide area mowers in our park districts 2 and 3 and Waipio Peninsula for the soccer fields, which are used by youth across the island, and include things like the forklift for our storage room, because in order for us to be fiscally efficient, we have to buy in bulk. So we buy in the storage room, and we use the forklift to be able to move the pallets and load it into the trucks to get it distributed to the districts. So that's why we feel that this equipment is really essential to do the day-to-day work that the council members want, as well as the additional work program. And if we can't have this equipment, it jeopardizes not just the council ads, but a lot of the other work the council members and us have been working on.
Director Thielen, for the 400,000 that you mentioned on page 18, that was moved to CIP, so it's not really actually something that we have that we're not going to be. I guess it's not. I guess it is available, but like, is page 19. Oh,
I think the one on page 19 has not
19.
been moved to CIP. Yeah.
okay. And then also for the $150,000 in CD1, may I ask which project that was?
Wahiawa District Park pool heater.
Huh, okay. Thank you. Hang on, let me just, I'm gonna take these notes. Okay, so members, I wanna have the discussion relating to the request for restoration of equipment. And we can always ask the director for to repeat that. But once again, the four projects is the $100,000 on page 18 by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for security cameras in parks. The refuse trucks, $400,000 by Councilmember Tupola, and then the $150,000, the CD1 that's already in the budget for the Wahiawa District Park pool heater, as well as how much out of the 2.75 million? How much did you say?
$1,337,530 would come up with, those other three projects would total the funding for the DPR equipment. And that would
No, how
leave-
much is coming from the MSS funding, the 2 point?
out of the 2.7, you would take out $1,337,530 and take out these other ads as well, and that totals up the full amount needed for the restoration of the equipment out of the 2.7 million.
Okay, members, like to have that discussion? Councilmember Tupola?
Okay, so I'm just going to ask for a summary. I am kind of following. So I think what we're suggesting here is that we discuss whether or not the equipment ad for what we're putting in now should be done, or we should take money out of MSS, because either way, if we prioritize this, then other priorities will not happen in MSS. Is that correct?
Everything I'm talking about reducing is an ad. So the 100,000 for the
Security cameras.
is an ad.
Yep.
And by the way, Councilman Dos Santos Tam and our staff met at Kalihi Uka. The school is putting in security cameras, and the school surrounds two sides of the park. And so we determined that the school cameras can point at the park. We're good with that. They utilize the park for things like recess, PE. It's justified, and we've committed to work with their administration to
So
support
that might not be necessary.
So, yeah, so that would be that. The 400,000 ad on page 19 for equipment. Again, what we have, instead of doing that ad, we recommend cutting that ad and instead utilizing the funding for the original, to restore the original request for the grounds maintenance trucks, which would include the special project units. That's the equipment that we need in order for those special project units to be able to go out to work. If we don't have that equipment, you're going to hire 18 people, and they're going to be sitting in the base yard because they will not have trucks to go on out and do the work.
So you're specifically with that one, you're suggesting that we cut this ad and that we use a different pocket of funding to still do that, to still get rubbish trucks?
I'm suggesting that you cut these ads and restore the original budget request for equipment for the Department of Parks and Recreation, which totals up to $1,900,000.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I just want to know about the rubbish trucks. Sorry to be so selfish. I just want to know, can we get rubbish trucks, yes or no?
It is in the original
MSS.
budget request, no, for grounds maintenance.
For grounds maintenance?
Yes, it's in the original DPR budget request that we're asking to be restored.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So that's a yes? Okay. Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on that, what about the pool heater? Any updates or insight on that? Because I do know that was, I think, one of the few initial modifications I think we made to the proposed budget, and it wasn't a straight up proviso. It was adding in funds in case there are other needs. And I know at the town hall, of course, as Parks knows, it was the first item that came up from the community, and then, I think is continuing to come up too. And I think the concern is that even though it's quote unquote fixed, that it's kind of just barely put together and also off. And so in reality, I think it's most likely that once it gets turned on in November, assuming it's not used in the interim, because I think the park rules do allow it to be turned on for programming, right? And so even though that wasn't a commitment made at the town hall, I know that it is within the realm of what's allowed for it to be turned on for Kupuna programming in the morning, at least for a few hours, especially maybe the latter part of spring and earlier into the fall. But maybe you have more info, so welcome input on that.
So, Councilman, my understanding is the fix that they did for the pump, it does have an expected life, but they expect it to be able to be working for another 2 to 3 years. So we think we have time to address it, and it's a volume that, as needed, we may be able to extend the life a little bit longer with the fixing. We also have a phase 2 for the Noresco projects that we're going to be taking a look at various pools. So we will continue to see what we can do on the pools to keep them maintained, because we know they're very important to people in the community. But at the same time, it's important to be able to get this equipment in so we can do the type of work for the positions that you're funding in our budget, as well as the base amounts. So for your district, it would mean being able to have those special project units to be able to work in the upper areas of your district, because one of them will be in the our District 5, not the Council District 5s. Also, one of the wide area mowers that we're looking for and some of the grounds maintenance trucks would be affecting the people in your district as well. And so we think we can do both and defer the work on the that you have in here on the pool, and then to keep doing the maintenance, and then as needed, we can do the replacement.
Appreciate that. So can I just get a commitment from you then that it'll be on and running once it comes back on in the fall and good for the rest of the season?
It will be on and running and good for as long as we can keep it moving. And I am not committing at this point to extending the months that the heaters are in, because we're paying over $6 million in electricity. And we did have to do a movement of funds, which you folks just approved, to shift funds into electrical, because even with the savings that we're starting to see with Noresco, because the rates are going up, we're not going to reduce the bill, we're going to bend the trajectory. So we're still chasing the electrical rates, and I cannot commit at this time to having it on for longer periods, but we will, from what they've told me, it's repaired and we will have it on.
Well, I'm sure it's repaired. My fear is that because it's literally as it's repaired, it is falling apart as it's being repaired, and there's a lot of concern, I guess, in that sense, that if we have this downtime during the summer and we can already anticipate it's going to be causing issues. I'm hearing you say 2-year life expectancy, but say it goes out again in the fall, would there be emergency funding to just begin that replacement process, or how would that work?
I think given the amount that's in there, we can look within the base operating to see if we have a problem, and we certainly can try and turn it on earlier to test it out sometimes prior to turning it on full-time in the fall.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Council Chair Waters, I know that the 2.7 is that you put in was for all of us. Right now, the movement of a little bit more than 1.3 million is being requested to meet, and it will leave about $151,000 per council district. I do want to have you talk about it first, because it was your ad that's currently in the budget, CD1, and then I'll ask all the members for their thoughts on it as well.
Okay, thank you. I think you accurately stated exactly what I was going to say, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. So members, you may recall last year we did a $900,000 ad where each of us working with the Parks Department got $100,000. And I thought, my community really loved this. So that's why I added $2.7 million in this year's budget, thinking that we increase it to $300,000 per council member. So I think what Director Thielen is suggesting now is because they need the money for equipment, to lower each of our ads to I got 144,000, but I like the 151 better. Is there any way we can bring that up somehow to 200,000 each council member? And maybe that's how we strike the balance. Because I guess what you're saying is you need 1.9 million for equipment. How you get to that is you take a portion of each of our council member ads, specifically named 3, Dos Santos Towns, Tupolas, and Wires. And you take a portion of that 2.7 million. One of the things that if you can commit to it, working with the council members, for example, the pool heater, out of the 150, possibly 200 million, thousand, that we could do the pool heater out of that money. Working with Councilmember Tupola, take a portion of her things to buy trucks for that district. Is that something you're willing to work with us on?
We are willing to work with you folks on that. I think the pool heater is an excellent example. We would not be able to turn around and buy equipment because I think that's in a different category than current expenses. But I think a lot of the projects that we are working with council members on do fall under current expenses. And the pool heater might be one of them because it's not really that type of equipment that I think the equipment budget covers, which is trucks and wide area mowers. It's more of a supply for the pool. So I think we can work with you folks within the current expense category. And I think because we're utilizing the master agreements and we're often able to do projects, you know, within a certain category, we can be very efficient with the funding. So as you saw last year, the $100,000, you know, we combined it with our base budget to be able to do the meaningful projects in your districts.
Okay, thank you. I'm open to, if not accepting what Director Thielen's saying, but certainly perhaps negotiating to get each council ad a little higher.
Okay. Are there any provisions that you can look at, Director, to take some of this funding so we can keep for each council district at 200,000?
I can go back and take a look at the request. My math came out at 151.
Yeah, same.
Thousand or so. But again, I think what we did see is a bump in the work program base budget this year, partly because we utilized the TAT funds. So last year it had been 8.3 million. I think it's up to now almost 8.6 million. So, you know, I think, again, if we can't get the equipment and the ad up to 200,000 per council, because the base budget for that works program has been increased, I think we can reach the same result utilizing the combination of that ad and the base budget.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Okimoto. I didn't see your
Thank you,
hand.
Chair. Really quick, following up, I know you're talking about other add-ons, but currently in the proposed budget, is there enough funding to maintain and keep open the pools in the court pools and the Manana pool?
So we've taken all 14 of the larger pools and we've done the Noresco project where that has replaced all of the pool pumps and the chlorine generation system. So that's all new in the 14 pools. So we anticipate that not only is the electrical and the supply costs going to be reduced, the working conditions are going to be improved over what they were in the past.
Sorry, Director, so you mentioned the 14 pools and the larger pools, and I know that recently we had the Manana pool open back up, so that's one of the 14 pools other than the Noresco project, because right now we're having calls that the facilities, the pool pumps keep on breaking down.
So the Noresco project did not cover all 21 pools, and when they went and looked at them, they were able to pencil out the cost savings to offset the investment for the equipment and change out by the larger pools. The smaller pools, it did not pencil out where you could generate enough cost savings to cover the cost of the improvements over a 20-year period. So we are currently working with the Department of Design and Construction on a couple pool contracts that they're going to be working to get out. Our pools are old, so even the ones where Noresco has changed it out, like Manoa, we still have problems with the tile is coming out and the plastering needs to be reworked. So we are going to have to do a series of projects across our pools, but we're trying to set these up as master agreements with DDC so we can thoughtfully, when we do take a pool out, we're able to comprehensively address the issues at that pool, to minimize the number of times it's taken out and the length of time it's taken out, and then to try and schedule these things so you only have one pool per region out of commission, so people have an alternate pool to go to. So we know that there's going to be a lot of catch-up work of deferred maintenance that needs to be done in our pools over the next 5 to 10 years, and we're trying to set up the contracting for that to do it as efficiently as possible to minimize the disruption.
Okay, thank you. I just want to follow up again. So these pools that you're mentioning, and if you could clarify for me, are the Manana and the Corp, are they considered the smaller or the larger? And also, if you have these maintenance catch-up projects, is this budgeted for? Are these expenditures budgeted for, or these repairs and maintenance, why are they not in the current R&M budget?
So Manana is a small pool. Corp is one of our largest pools. And as far as the budget goes, we did put funding into the budget a few years ago for what's called IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, for one type of pool projects. DDC's working on that contract now, so the contract has not been bid out. They're working on a second contract for the retiling and replastering. Once that goes out, then we would be able to do both types of projects under what's known as the Renovate Rec bulk fund, because these are all existing improvements. So they would be bulk fund CIP.
Okay. And again, you said the replastering and the retiling, that's going to be under DDC.
DDC will be preparing both contracts, and then through purchasing, putting them out to bid. We will be discussing with them who should run the projects after that. These may be simpler projects, especially the retiling and replastering, where our department can run them. The bonding may be more appropriate to be done by DDC because it's electrical, and we do not have in-house electrical.
All right. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you. Just want to make a comment about the pools, because I do know you guys are doing everything to just fix the baseline of pools. And then there's, of course, the additional issue of heated. And heating the pools are very expensive. I know that. In the areas that I've been working on, they have expressed concern, this is your line folks, about the maintenance contract to keep them going and the sustainability of having heated pools. So I guess I'm just asking that against the backdrop of your overall energy efficiency strategy that you have laid out for the parks. I highly recommend that a subset of that be on the pools, because then if you have the right solar available, then it helps with the decreasing of the amount. And I concur that a lot of our seniors use the pools, and of course during the colder months. But I do acknowledge that it's expensive. So I know they're out of commission in my district, but I have just prioritized some of our showers didn't have warm water, hot water, so I prioritized that. But in the future, I guess looking down the line, because it's so expensive, I just want to make sure that your team is looking at that when you think about the technology for fixing our pools and then the maintenance contract. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Director Thielen, well, a lot of my ads a lot of my priorities were reliant on, the 2.7. I didn't add to too many because I was hoping that our 2.7 would move forward. I do want to look at doing this in the FD1 so that we can look at other means, and so that we can have discussions with the council members that there are recommendations to not include their projects on, you know what I mean? So I would like to accept these moving forward, work on it with the FD1. Please discuss. I'm glad that Councilmember Dos Santos Tam had the discussion regarding the cameras. I do want to acknowledge, though, that it said just security cameras in city parks in general, right? I know that it's great Kalihiuka will be partnering with their schools, but maybe there's other ways we can do that as well. But I'm going to accept all these, and moving forward for FD1, if we want to look at this talk to the members who you're looking to reduce funding from. Okay, thank you. Members, any discussion on that recommendation? Okay. So folks, that means I accepted those on page 19. I do want to move to page 20. We have Department of Enterprise Services, where we are deleting the activity called overtime. Next, we're moving to mass transit under DTS. With the exception of the overtime, we are deleting the funding for current expenses. We're deleting the proviso of at least $25,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for restricted parking zones in accordance with Section 15, Article 30, Revised Ordinances of Honolulu 2021, as well as we're accepting but amending the amount and amending proviso language to the conforming change. So Councilmember Okimoto, we're accepting but amending amount and we're changing it to the conforming language for at least, amending and proviso at least $125,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated to install delineators along Almakua Street and other locations within Pearl City. Moving forward, members, any questions about the reduction and then the amendment change on page 20? Okay, we're accepting all those. Moving forward with the exception on page 21 with the exception of deletion of overtime. We are adding the funding. We're accepting and moving from administration to transportation, performance, and development activity that $50,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for restricted parking zones in accordance with Section 15, Article 30, Revised Ordinances of Honolulu 2021. So we're accepting and moving from administration to transportation performance and development activity. Okay. Next, we are restoring the funding for passenger vehicles in the highway fund for transportation performance and development. Next, we are accepting and moving to CIP the funding for current expenses and the proviso of at least $500,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated to install traffic signal at the intersection of Kapolei Parkway and Kama'aha Avenue. Okay, any questions on that? Any discussion? We're accepting, moving to CIP. Okay. Next, on page 21, provision for energy costs. Looks like we may need this. Reduction of funding for current expenses for at $366,032. Provision reduction of current expenses of $1.5 million on page 21. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, we're going to accept all that. Moving forward, page 22. We have, I'm just going to do the top before the amendments, okay? I'm going to do transfers to other funds and then general provisos first, okay? Before. So members, I am accepting the decrease transfer to reserve for fiscal stability fund, and then accepting, and then we're gonna discuss the provisos. So if you can please direct your attention to the documents attached to, hold on. Okay, the section 12 and section 15. Is on page, after page 24, that section 12, it strikes out section O in the general provisos. So basically, any remaining FRF funds will still come to the council after with a 15-day letter, and then if it's rejected, then we have a resolution. Okay, members, are we listening? This is our Section 12 general provisos. Removing Section O, or Section 12, Clause O, which will still require these FRF funds to be submitted to a 15-day letter, and if rejected, come to the council as a resolution. Okay? The second amendment, and I would like the introducer of this proviso to explain this, as there are sections that are blank, and I would need further clarification on, is Section 15. And I would like for Councilmember Say, the introducer of this proviso, to share.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This particular proviso of Section 15, it's an amendment to the bill that is before us, and this would be for all of us consideration if the council would like to amend the amount of the maximum granting aid award to $150,000 or another amount acceptable by the council. At this time, members, it is currently at $200,000 due to the council policies from early 2000s. If the council agrees, DCS would have to submit a new communication with the new amounts. Bringing it down to $150,000 would allow for about 13 or 14 new organizations to receive funding. Because of the competition of these funds at the state and county level, the thought would be that we lower it by $50,000 once more, and it would also try to incorporate 13 or 14 new organizations that applied for it. Thank you.
Members, so we're in discussion on the two provisos. First, any of the provisos for the members to ask the introducers questions. Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Say, for that, because I do hear from nonprofits who weren't funded. I guess my question is, if they were funded at $100,000, how much more would they, how many more organizations would be able to fund? So first of all, I agree with your proposal at $150,000, and I'm just wondering if we lowered it to $100,000, how many more organizations would we be able to fund? Because 14 to 15 more is not that much. If it was double that, I don't know who calculated that for you, Councilmember Say, but I guess I am open to reducing it even more, whether it be 125,000 or 100,000, so that more organizations get it. I do have concerns about some organizations who rely on these funds solely for the sustenance of their organizations as opposed to supplementing, right? And if that is our overall intent, then maybe we should be supplementing these organizations with less funding so that we could provide more organizations. It's just food for thought, but I do support Councilmember Say's proviso.
Okay, thank you. I do have a note that I don't know if I can, I'll just quickly mention, I understand the brevity of the issue. I do have a resolution pending in my committee, I think it's in my committee, relating to reducing the amount, and even looking at $100,000, that is something that can be discussed. Looking to put it in the proviso for this budget, and I don't know if I'm correct in stating this, and I can totally be corrected if I am incorrect, but if we do reduce it to $150,000, a lot of the requests of the GIA, to the GIA currently is at the base amount of $200,000 this year, right? So I absolutely, I'm on the same page as the budget chair along the lines of council members say, so that we can look to supporting more organizations. That is why I have my resolution, which I yet to hear. So I just want to state that, first off, I do support the intent. However, what has been submitted, what the applications that have been submitted for this year are for the base amount of $200,000. So I just wanted to share that. That's my concern, but I'm open to hearing from everyone as well. Okay, Any members? Okay, I'm going to go Councilor Tupola and Council Chair Waters. Yes.
Is it okay to ask DCS a question?
Okay, go ahead.
I do believe we see Deputy Director here, or whoever wants to answer the GIA question.
So aloha, Edward Los Banos, Deputy Director, Department of Community Services. So as Chair Cordero presented, a lot of grantees did put in for 200,000. So if we do fund at 100,000, it kind of cuts their budget in half. So it might create a challenge for some of those programs to proceed as planned. 150,000 is a lot easier of a budget cut to absorb. But we do agree, Councilmember Kiaina, on her statement about encouraging nonprofits to look at the GIA program as their lifeline, as their sole source of income to run their programs and rely on that annually. It's something that we disclose regularly. It's on our website, in fact, because we do want to fund a lot more programs and new programs out there. I will also share that this year we had a number of new commissioners on board that scored a little bit different than others than in the past. They brought their influences with them, but rest assured, they do kind of score what's in front of them and what their applications say. But I think you did see some experience where they saw some nonprofits that are big nonprofits locally, like the Red Cross. I know got funded this year, and in the past they didn't get funded. But just that analysis on seeing when was the last time we funded those folks. I think we did see some of that come up in this year's scoring with the new commissioners.
Yeah, that's great. I think that overall, you guys' process is super transparent. I would say there were a couple organizations that reached out who said, I got this every year, and all of a sudden I didn't get it. And I think to Councilmember Kiana's point, we don't want it to be devastating to you either, but at the same time, it's every year there's new applicants, there's new programs that come out, so we can't guarantee you'll get it year after year. So upon your suggestion that some have been budgeting for the 200,000, what is your suggestion on timing? Because it sounds like we might all want to move to the 150, but when do we do that in a way that it will give people a good heads up?
Timeline-wise, what we do is we take the approved budget that comes out, and then we start negotiating a contract with them. We can run numbers. I don't have it off the top of my head now on what would be the impact of the 100,000. Like how many, I wouldn't be able to know off the top of my head right now, how many nonprofits put in at 200,000 that would be impacted, how many were under 100, or what those kind of programs might be. I mean, we can go back and run those numbers for you though.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I mean, just in my perspective, I think moving forward, getting them to have what they expect and then trying to chart a course forward that gives people lots of notice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. My resolution is Resolution 24-118. Okay, just putting a plug out there. Okay, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. 24-118, is it?
Yes.
And this basically would say that would if passed, would take effect next year, right?
Correct.
So that was my question. So if we amend this year's budget to include Councilmember Say's amendments, it would affect this year's awardees, right? DCS?
Deputy Director.
That is correct. If you amended this budget document to lower the ceiling from 200 to 150, it would take effect this year. There has been precedence for this, has been done in the past, and it's worked out okay.
Okay, well that's good to know. I think it was Department Communication 147 that already laid out the list of awardees, right?
Correct. So we do have a list. We do have all the grants scored and the ranking. So we would, that's why I'm saying we could run it at $100,000 to cut $1,000 right now to see what the impact would be.
Right.
We could also consider doing that for the past couple of years so you could see what that impact would be as well to get more data.
Were the awardees aware of the Council Communication 147? Did we create an expectation in some of the awardees that they were going to get more than 150,000?
So as I mentioned before, there's been precedence for this. So we do warn our grantees. We do tell, I mean, they ask us, hey, what's my next steps, Edward? And we say, well, let the budget document pass, and then we'll see what the ceiling is, and then we'll work it. That's where we work it and negotiate those contracts from there based on the proposals. So I mean, I'm sure they'll be disappointed. There'll be some disappointment in there, but as I said, it's been done in the past, and we've been able to negotiate. I think only like the last 2 times I understand, there's maybe 2 programs that fell out, and then we just went lower on the list. But that's what the impact been for going to 200 to 150.
And this year, we typically put about $8 million a year into the grant and aid package. Is that about right?
It's 1/2 of 1% of the real property tax collections is what we're budgeted at. When we do have organizations return funds for whatever reason, we do roll those forward in other years. So some years it's been as high as $11 million just because of things rolling forward. You know, otherwise it's right around $8 million as you mentioned,
Okay.
Chair Waters.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I guess another option which we've done in the past was somehow find more money and include it in here, but I understand that's difficult. But having said that, I'm happy to support the amendment.
Support the amendment by Councilmember Say. Okay. So we're gonna go. Let me go backwards and go with section 15 first. I want to get a. I keep doing this to everyone, but I think this is great for seeing where we are at. I'll go with Councilmember Toba.
I'll support Councilmember Say's
Okay.
proposal.
Okay. Councilmember Okimoto.
I'll also support the proposal.
Councilmember Wire.
Me too. And appreciate the work that went into it.
Okay. Okay. You already mentioned. Councilmember Kia Aina. Okay. Okay. Well, Councilmember Tupola.
It's whether or not we support the proviso or your reso.
No, can do both.
Yeah,
guess, yeah.
I guess for me, because a lot of my nonprofits are so fragile, like I
Yeah.
would rather give them the heads up through your reso and have it effective
Yeah.
later. But that's just, again, like how Deputy said, you know, they've been waiting on it. But a lot of these guys, they call me all the time about all their proposals. So I am hopeful that we don't just pull out the rug from under them. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. That's why I went the reso route. I mean, they are related, but I don't think that we don't have to do one without the other or choose one over the other. Okay, so with that, we'll accept that. And now we'll go into section 12 proviso. I'll start off with the committee members first. Councilmember Say, for the clause, I mean, for O, section O, or clause O, I don't know. Thoughts on striking out clause O? Then we can go into discussion with the administration. Basically, it keeps like the FRF funds as a 15-day letter, and then if we reject it, it will come to the council as a resolution. Okay, you're fine with that? Council committee member Kia Aina?
Or was that relating to section 12?
Yes, correct.
Oh, so can you repeat that again? It's doing what?
It's okay. So, but what we're doing right now with the FRF funds, basically, or yeah, any of the fiscal recovery funds, where it's a 15-day letter, and then they'll come, and then if it's rejected, then it comes to the council as a resolution,
Oh.
which
so-
you've done a lot.
Yeah, so we're rejecting the 15-day letter.
No, we're keeping it. This striking out of the proviso keeps it the way we've been doing it.
Oh, you just got to say it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Yeah, I have no issues at this time, but do want to hear admin's input.
Okay. Committee Member Toba.
I'm good, thank you.
Support? Okay. Councilmember Okimoto?
Yeah, I'm a little confused as well. Can you repeat to me what we're doing?
So right now, if there's any expenditures to the FRF, it comes to us as a 15-day letter, like it does. And then if it's rejected, then we hear it at the council as a resolution. And then so striking it, this language basically keeps our same process.
Okay, thank you. I support as well. Thank
Okay.
you, Chair.
Council Chair Waters?
In support.
Okay. Councilmember Tupola?
Yep, keep our same process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next we have from the City Administration, Director Kawano.
Good afternoon, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Contrary to what council members have just stated, this proviso was proposed by administration to allow us to work with council to spend down the remaining monies in FY25, if anything, immediately, with the understanding that the managing director's office, BFS, would communicate when funds become available, and at a minimum have a discussion at a committee and budget hearing to discuss what we're going to do with it, as we've done through the whole process. So we are recommending that we keep to CD1. CD1 currently includes Proviso 12, subsection small o. It's not deleted in the CD1. We'd like to keep it in there.
Okay, thanks.
With all due respect. Thank you.
Okay, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious of the reasoning at this point, given what's left to do with the funds, if this is even necessary.
Yeah,
Because
we
if
don't.
if it's already a process that's instituted for other like reprogramming, it doesn't seem like it's overly burdensome. So that's why I just welcome input.
I'm thinking that as we wind down, as we approach 12/31/24, if something were to come up, we don't want to be stuck in, the normal review process if we had to move quickly, because it takes time to expend money as well. Once we get the go-ahead to move forward, and we don't want to send anything back to Treasury. More likely than not, I think that we probably would use any leftover funding for the hazard pay contingency, because more likely than not, we're going to have to deal with it on a multi-year basis, maybe over 2, maybe 3 years. So, yeah, and that's why the administration is recommending that council members allow us to communicate with council members and continue to move forward accordingly.
Yeah,
Without having to go through the 15-day letter and the reso process.
I appreciate that. And I do think those are valid concerns, but then at the same time, just the notice with the reso doesn't mean we're going to have to introduce the reso, because if no one objects, then you'd still be able to proceed after the time. But do appreciate the insight, because I do think that's a valid and reasonable perspective. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Great questions. Okay, members, any other comments on these provisos? I do have something for Section 15. If I have Deputy Director Los Baños. Oh. For the, would we be able to work with your department to receive a revised list for the GIAs, since we seem to be moving the Section 15 proviso moving forward?
Yes, we'll work on that right now. I've been in contact with our Office of Grants Manager, Administrator Shane Akagi.
Sorry,
So
who is it again?
I've been in contact with Shane Akagi. He's the administrator
right,
for
Shane.
the Office of Grants Management, and he's working on it right now.
Perfect. Thank you, Shane. Okay, thank you, Deputy Director. Okay, moving forward, I'm looking to accept both of these provisos. Sorry. I'm looking to accept the striking of O in Section 12, and then accepting Section 15 proviso. Thoughts? Okay, members, that is hold on, I have to go back, excuse me. We're not done with operating. We need to move here to the amendments to Executive Operating Program, amendments relating to detailed statements of revenues and surplus. I'm referring to page 22, page 23, and page 24. Members, these amendments are needed to be moved they are, let me just read it. Interfund transfers, the monies are first deposited into the general fund and then transferred to the appropriate fund. And yeah, So that's the reason why we need to do these transfers. I will do my best to read them all. First off, from the general, on page 22, you see 3 funds, increase in GET surcharge deposited into general fund, increase TAT into general fund, the increase interfund transfer to GET surcharge to transit fund. Members, any questions about this? Page 22. Okay, I'm looking to accept it. Any questions, comments? Okay, page 23. Increase interfund transfer for TAT to transit fund. Increase, still in the general fund, we have increased interfund transfer to the transit construction mitigation fund. Then we have the decreased interfund to reserve for fiscal stability fund. Next, we have the transit construction mitigation fund, which increases the transfer from the general fund. Next, we have the fiscal stability fund, which is the decrease from the transfer from the general fund. Then we have our transit fund, which increases GET surcharge, which you saw in the general fund to the transit fund. Increase TAT into the transit fund. Increase OTAT into the transit fund. Increase the interest revenue fund interest revenue from into the transit fund, excuse me. And then we're also increasing other revenues, refunds, rental, and vacation transfers into transit fund. Looking to accept these funds, these transfers, these interfund transfers. Any questions? Any questions? Looking to accept it? Okay, page 24. Increase transfer from Transit Improvement Bond Fund to the Transit Fund. Then we have the increase for unreserved fund balance, Transit Fund. Then we have the Transit Fund increased interfund transfer to the Transit Fund, And then we have increased interfund transfer to the general fund, from transit to general fund. Next, we have increased tax-exempt commercial paper, which is now into the Transit Improvement Bond Fund. So, TECP into Transit Improvement Bond Fund. Okay, next, also into the Transit Improvement Bond Fund is the General Obligation Bonds issuance. Next, we have in the Federal Grants Fund, we are increasing Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, FFGA drawdown. Next, federal grants, increased brownfields grant, the EPA drawdown. Next, increase FY 2023 Consolidated Appropriations Act, which is also in Federal Grants Fund. Lastly, on page 24, we're increasing an unreserved fund balance from the Federal Grants Fund. And from the administration, we have Director Kawano.
Thank you, Budget Chair. Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. I just wanted to point out to council members that with the reduction of the transfer to the Fiscal Stability Fund, reduction of $2 million, that means we're going to transfer $5 million. And on page 21, the reduction of the provision for disaster preparedness and response by $1.5 million An additional $3.5 million of cash has been provided to help balance the budget. So those were reductions, if you will, of cash set aside for
Those provisions.
funding originally proposed by the administration.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any questions? No. Councilmember Say,
Yeah, Mr. Kawano,
Director.
those two measures that you highlighted, can you share with us what may be the fiscal impact?
Well, the first one on page 21,
Yes.
it's a new provisional that administration proposed at $5 million to, with respect to prevention and response, right, to disasters. That $5 million is essentially something that we decided to start with and, assess this year as we gear up programs to be prepared for disasters, whether it's wildfire or hurricane. So, that number does have some flexibility in it. And we're going to learn more as to the budget we need as we move forward. With regard to the second item, with regard to the transfer to the Fiscal Stability Fund, we've, on a quite consistent basis, at least since I've been around, we've funded the Fiscal Stability Fund in the amount of $7 million annually. We keep all of the interest earned on the cash in that fund for disasters that could happen. The reduction from 7 to 5 is a significant amount, but shouldn't impact our creditworthiness. I think if we did nothing, or a very small amount, we remove most of it, rating agencies will inquire as to why. But the response will be that we have a very restrictive budget this year.
Can you maybe explain to me what happened at the state? And maybe if you don't know the answer, that's fine. But did they not fund their OPEB? They declined to fund $300 million. Was it a news article? No, you wouldn't know.
I'm not aware of that. They may have, but city has not done that even during the pandemic.
It was more the employer's contribution, to the pension and the retirement plan, but they can't touch the EUTF because it's pay as you go. So, okay, impact is very minimal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Next, we have Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I just had kind of a general question. Just contemplating the discussion today, because I think some of it was kind of like unexpected with and I know we're working through amendments and everything and input from the departments, and I know the departments are rushing to get through budget, so maybe their feedback might be delayed or directed to various individuals. Do you know how much would otherwise be in the PVP if it wasn't distributed across all the departments? A round number, I mean, I don't know if it's 40 million, 60 million, less, more.
So in terms of, I think the total amount, all sources of funding, when we used the PVP a few years ago and prior, I'd say we funded about 50 million, just a round number would go in there. The general fund portion is, not that much, 15 million maybe or so back then. The number's probably bigger now because there have been collective bargaining increases, right, that would factor into how much gets budgeted for vacant positions. So round number, let's say it's closer to 18 right now in terms of general fund monies. That's the amount that would be in there. I think in the past, what council members would do is take half of it or even more to help balance the budget. When we do that, what happens is when the departments prioritize their hirings, they prioritize the dollars that they have available for vacant positions and only hire the positions that are at the top of their pecking order because they don't have full funding.
Yeah.
Currently, as we work with Director Miyazaki and, in terms of hiring, we can put out ads for all vacant positions, and that's what we've been doing to, escalate the process. So that's about what happened, yeah.
Okay.
In the past.
I appreciate that because and again, I think it's our job to collectively evaluate the entire budget and make adjustments and move things around too. But just since, we can't all sit together, all 9 of us, and just talk story, I'm curious on your feedback just generally as like policy, understanding that even if, say, we're in agreement with the bulk of the proposed budget, where do you typically recommend balancing from if we're going to be making small adjustments?
As I stated earlier, it'd be good to know how much more we need to balance. I would focus on the provisional accounts, and it looks like Budget Chair has started because I see the reductions. The reduction, singular, in the provision for disaster, right? Prevention, recovery. So it's sort of started already. If you look at our provisionals, the largest one we have is for hazard pay. Administration is trying to add more. And I'm thinking that since we know that more likely than not, the settlement, once we start talking to unions and getting to settlement agreements, will probably obligate the city for more than a year, in terms of having to fund the settlement. So if we need to trim that a little this year, we can look there. But I'm willing to discuss all of the provisional budget account balances with Budget Chair.
Yeah, do you think that's, I guess, specific to each budget year? Or would that be just your standard recommendation? Because like when everyone does their CD1s, right, and then CD2s, part of it is incorporating like, proposed cuts to adjust, right? And
right.
So, and I think you can see like mine came from different places than some of my colleagues, and so I'm just welcoming input so I better understand for next year, like where in your mind, and again, it's up to us to propose from wherever too, but like I'm curious just your perspective.
Well, next year will be very different because there won't be any FRF to create capacity.
Correct.
So yeah, we're going to have to dig in pretty hard. As Budget Chair mentioned, there still is equipment in CIP, and we'll do the research, but if by policy and by the criteria we cannot replace the equipment that remains in CIP, we're not going to do it. We're just not going to do it. We're going to go back to the departments and say, department, HPD, we put that out there. Hey, you have, when everything's done, $2 million less, in your equipment budget, Class C on the operating side to replace equipment. They're going to have to reprioritize the equipment they replace, such that it's going to be $2 million less, in terms of what they encumber. So, that's still in play as we speak. We asked for full restoration, but I can tell that the final balance that we keep in CIP is going to be somewhere between where we are now and the full restoration.
Last question, Chair. Mahalo. So coming back to that, that's internal policy that dictates kind of the allocation of bond funding, or is there actual aspects of the financing side that restrict it?
With regard to what we can expand in terms of bond funds to replace equipment, the policy is internal. I believe it's BFS policy. And when you have policy, the most important thing to do is adhere consistently. Because if you don't and you move things around without reason, if something were to go wrong and you get audited, that's when you're in That's when the penalties would be highest.
I appreciate that. So the policy applies not just to the way a budget would be proposed when it's written up, right, and then submitted, but also in terms of how the budget is carried out. So if
Carried
tho-
out, yes, the operational aspect as well.
So the policy, if those funds are actually allocated to a particular project, but it doesn't comport with the policy, even though, like law-wise, right, the ROH, the budget bill that becomes the actual law allocates that fund, right, those funds via the CIP budget. You're saying that the BFS internal policy would override the allocation in the law. Is that my correct understanding?
Yeah, and to some extent, it's not just because of the fact that we've set policy that doesn't agree with the ordinance. We have to look at the higher level of laws as well, right? You know, Treasury law with regard to how you expend tax-exempt bond proceeds. So you have a purpose. We have policies that we follow with regard to equipment purchases on the CIP side. We have to comply with the policies that we've set, and we have to comply consistently.
Okay, but there's no violation of Treasury rules or guidelines. You're saying it would be just a violation of BFS internal policy?
Well, I think if we don't follow the policies that we've set, there could be a violation of laws and regulations.
Understood. Appreciate that.
And I think that's why BFS has, over the years, been very deliberate in terms of how they follow policy for capitalized assets funded by bond funds.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any other discussion? Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. Hey, I want to talk about, follow up on the conversation about using CIP for equipment. The city's done that in the past, though, right?
You know, I haven't researched. They could have.
Okay.
They
Well,
could have.
It's up to you if you want to use CIP or not. We'll leave that up to you. But at the very least, I think budget and fiscal service policy should comport with the law, which we would be passing in this ordinance. Now, can a department come to council and ask to move money from salaries to equipment? For example, you brought up HPD. We're funding 400 plus vacant positions. In my mind, even in the best year possible, they fill 150 positions, right? That leaves another 250 vacant positions. That money, which will come back into the general fund. Could an HPD come to the council and say, hey, look, we got extra money from vacant positions, which I think was kind of what Councilmember Wire was saying. Hey, we want to buy police cars with that. They can do that, right?
Probably later in the year. It wouldn't be recommended to do it early, but as you get into third, fourth quarter, ordinance allows within a department, so within HPD, if there's a required transfer in the operating budget between activity or department,
right?
Yeah, over a certain criteria set, we go to council for approval by resolution.
Sure. So that's all I'm saying, that there is a way to do this if we need to. If we're unable to do it today or January 5th, we still have a mechanism to do that if we need to.
Yeah, we just have to be careful because and I'm glad you approved moving the ambulances back to operating budget because they're long lead. The goal is you need enough time to encumber.
Well, I'm not sure we did that yet.
Oh,
I think what we said was we'll discuss it and possibly do it in FP1.
Yeah, but thank you for the discussion because I think for that kind of equipment, you don't want to wait till you reach towards the end of the year because you may not encumber in time.
Right.
And you're going to lose the funding and you get pushed back even farther.
Right.
Yeah, that's something to consider.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any discussion? Okay, members, any discussion or rejections on accepting the transfers, the interfund transfers? Okay, seeing none, We're in general discussion about the CD2 amendments. There's a few outstanding things that we need to discuss with administration that I look forward to discussing when it comes to the council in June. Okay, Councilmember Say?
Yes, if it is possible, Madam Chair, that we get some idea of what our forecast would be for anticipation of fiscal year 26. Because this morning's deliberation in regards to the real property rates were excellent. Starting from that point of view, I'm concerned on behalf of all of us council members that we may not be able to generate the revenues that we may need in anticipation of the administration going to collective bargaining. That's number one. Number two, all of the federal funds will be expiring very shortly. And those federal funds I consider new money that will not be there. That will not be there for the city in regards to the general excise tax. So that's another point that I think Director Kawano should be aware of. The other big one for us is, the creation of the two taxes on the TAT. One was for the rail, one was for the general fund. But the idea behind it is that recognizing what Yuhiro has stated for the record, the growth doesn't look too rosy. A 1.5 growth, anticipating based upon a 2% inflation, we may be at a minus 3.5. And if our assessments are not comparable to a 3.5, then we are in hot water. So if it is possible, Mr. Kawano, do you folks have any forecasts? Because real property tax is flat, meaning you know what you're going to generate based on the assessments. And now the inclusion of the rates that have been included, the TVUs. So I don't want us to go back to always to the provisional vacant position account. And I think that may be an issue that future council members would have to address in the out years, but it is a major issue. So how do you see fiscal year, this is already doing 25 for 26. Next year, when we all come back, the spring of 25, we'll see.
It's hard to predict, because if you look at the economists, right, in 23, they predicted a recession towards the middle of the year, interest rates coming down, right? It hasn't happened. They kicked the pail forward. Then they thought interest rates would come down early in 24. It hasn't happened. The economy, U.S. economy has been resilient. Therefore, interest rates, mortgage rates remain high. Therefore, I believe, in terms of our primary source of revenue right now, which is real property tax, I do believe that assessments, when we do it again next year, will not increase significantly. That's my guess, my guesstimate. Unless things change, I think interest rates have to come down for assessments to go back up. The economy, U.S. economy overall has been fairly hot. Not to say the same exists for Hawaii, because we're going to struggle, right, with the rebuilding of Lahaina and where we are with tourism, the trends there in general, the strength of the dollar, international, especially Japanese, not coming back. One of the big factors is the exchange rate. So all of those things are factors in terms of headwinds that our economy is going to be up against going forward. So I would think that for FY26, pretty level real property tax revenue base, in terms of assessment.
No, that's why I'm just saying my concern is that if it's going to be flat in 26, how do we incorporate collective bargaining? How do we address collective bargaining as the new members come in it's an issue that's out there that nobody wants to talk about, but it is a concern because, yeah, I feel like this economy is flat based on the premise that I believe that we've already exhausted all of our federal monies. And a lot of it went to just subsidize present sustainability. Why the state has a windfall today in the general excise tax is because of the federal monies. It wasn't the visitors. People are going to say it could be construction industry, Department of Defense. In 2027, military leases comes up for negotiations. I'm just asking the administration, what are they looking forward to in the next 4 years? That's all. That these members and I can understand that. What are we headed into? The headwinds, great. I can understand that. Now I know what I got to do. Tighten my belt, da-da-da-da-da. So it is a concern, but it's a concern that we can overcome if we all are in the same boat. So that's why I thought maybe if, I don't know, Chair Waters, if HSAC does something like forecast for the 4 counties on real property tax, which is our only source of revenues. Let's say, for example, we don't get federal funds in 25. You get Department of Defense, but all this extra, ARPA, SLR, RF, rental relief, utility fund, all of this is going to be gone. So how do we make up that side of the equation in propping the state of Hawaii's economy and the county of Oahu? I share this to my colleagues across the street. I think they forgot about Oahu. I really do. Because we're the engine of the state. Without Waikiki, there's no TAT. Kauai is flat, Big Island is flat, Maui is flat on the tourist industry. At least Oahu has a better percentage of visitor count. But I don't feel like we get anything on behalf of our first responders. It seems like they're giving us more and more responsibilities without the resources that we need to. So in closing, I just wanted to share my manao in trying to anticipate what do I have to face for the next go around. So, Mr. Guano, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other general discussion? Okay. Members, the chair recommends that Bill 12, 2024, CD1 be amended to a CD2 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary, and any changes to transfers between funds that are necessary to balance revenues and appropriations in each fund. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Reservations by Councilmember Say. The bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 12 to 24, CD2, be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Reservations by Councilmember Say, and hearing no other, so ordered. Moving forward to Bill 13. Okay. CD1, approving the executive capital budget and program for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. Members, it is Council Communication, Council Communication 141. I do want to bring up proceed with remote testifiers. We have remote testifiers. First, we have Renell from Palolo Community Association. And then we have Laura Ruby, followed by Colin Peros, followed by Denise Antolini, followed by Daniela Minerbi. Is any of them online?
Chair, first 3 testifiers are not online.
Online? Okay. Next, Denise Antolini, online.
Aloha, Budget Chair Cordero, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to see you again. Just weighing in again in support of the proposed addition, CIP addition for the North Shore Ocean Safety Center, the $500,000 for planning and design. I think our petition now is almost 8,000 people in support, so we're glad to count you as allies in this effort, along with the mayor's team. And with that, just a big mahalo for keeping this moving. Aloha.
Mahalo. Next, also online, Daniela Minerby. Are you online? Okay, we'll move forward with online testifiers first. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Please use the raise hand feature. Anyone else online? Seeing none, we're closing remote testifiers. We'll now move on to in-person testifiers. I don't know if this person is in person, but we have Renelle from Palolo Community Association in person. Then followed by Laura Ruby. Okay, Renelle. And please state your name for the record so that we can list it down. Thank you. Press the on/off button.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Raynell Asuenga, testifying with the Palolo Neighborhood Board in support of Bill 13, CD 1, specifically funding for Palolo Valley District Park.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, I think in person, Laura Ruby, followed by Colin Paros.
Yes, thank you. Laura Ruby. Yes, I'm not in support of the further funding for the bridge over the Alawai Canal, but I know that this is already past your first reading and this is the second one. And so what I'd like to emphasize to you people who are our representatives, we elect you, and we are all the taxpayers. So I'd like you to really think about the things that I'm suggesting. There's two main things that I'm suggesting. One is a full EIS, and because this bridge project started in 2015, it has been languishing in a EA draft status for a long time, but the full EIS is actually very needed because it addresses things like the Migratory Bird Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Diamond Head Special District, the Waikiki Special District, the land ordinance that says zero build along the Alawai Canal, and the Federal Highway Commission policy that states that any local, state, or federal properties that are taken for transportation sites must have an equal replacement of any kind of park areas. And so this has happened before in our communities. And so this, we have to tell you that the proposal as it is now in place will completely bisect the Alawai Park. And this means that all of our many, many community users will not have full access to that park. And if I can just say a few more things, a full EIS gives you the quality of human environment. That's cultural, historical, social, and besides environmental. It will really give the full picture of what's the site and the community are, and I think this is very necessary if we are really doing, if a good job is going to be done. The other thing is a couple of other things.
Can I have you wrap it up, please?
Okay, but Army Corps of Engineers has not made their final decisions. You can't have two things going together. And then finally, Secretary Buttigieg said today that all transportation things should have community involvement. And finally, what I'd like to have you do is the language says that consideration of a bridge design with a lower height and width, that is very nondescript language. I would say that the width should be 10 feet wide, as all of our other bicycle paths are, Ruby. And that our lower height would be no more than 3 feet above the Kalakaua Bridge. Please, those are very important things if we are going to go forward. So please, we want a seat at the table for all the RFPs and for any of the further designs. That means the community people, we want to be involved. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Colin Paros, followed by Daniela Minerby.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Colin Paros, testifying with the Pololo Neighborhood Board in support, specifically funding for the Pololo Valley District Park. So thank you to Director Thielen with the Department of Parks and Recreation for presenting at one of our board meetings. And in that presentation, Director Thielen highlighted that the outdoor court lights at Pololo Valley were removed in 2009 for safety reasons. And unfortunately, they were never replaced. So thank you, especially to Councilmember Say, for amending the bill to include funding to address this huge inequity. Our neighborhood board received over 200 signatures from community members, mostly gathered by our newest board member, Asuega. So thank you for your work. So respectfully, we ask the committee to continue funding for the outdoor court lighting. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Daniela Minerbi. And if there's anyone else who wishes to testify, please line up on your right side of the testifiers area. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Councilman, Chair, and City Councilman. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm opposed to Bill 13, 2024, CD1, concerning the budget for the proposal a while. And I'm asking, requesting a complete EIS that include physical environment, but also social and human environment. The EA, which has been in existence for a few years, is not addressing what specific, for instance, what specific provisions are made on how the city is going to manage the security of a bridge that is open 24 hours in a park that closes at 10 p.m. Also, how the people who work in the garden will have access to their gardens, since the ramp, the footprint of the proposed bridge ramp is going to occupy what is now the existing parking, which is the access to actually the garden. The footprint of the ramp also, it is taking away the major part of the area where, next to the children playground, where the residents, the users of the park, gather daily and nightly and in the afternoon. And so where will they be moved if that area is taken away? Also, what is intended by a lower, narrower bridge if it's not quantified how much lower and how less wider it is? This is very descriptive. These are very descriptive adjectives, but don't provide with a specific number where the community can respond. We also ask for the community to be involved in the design step by step.
Ms. Minerbi, your buzzer went off a minute ago, but can you please wrap it up?
We desire a collaborative and transparent relationship with the city that is taking good care of us. Thank you. And we would like to really collaborate and be asked and involved in the process. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? All right, we will close testimony. Thank you very much, members. We will now move to Council Communication 141. Okay, members, we have page 1, which currently has reduction, and 2, procurement of major equipment. So we have 2. And because we didn't make any amendments, any add-ins or any reductions to these pages, I'll accept both. So once again, the first one is procurement of major equipment, reduction from the CIP at $2,899,800. And then for the procurement of major equipment, we're going to accept the amount and the language change because we accepted the amount and language change as well in the operating budget, which is the lightweight 5-gang fairway mowers for Parks District 4. Any questions? Okay, members, we're going to accept it. Okay, Moving forward, page 2. We have Honolulu Police Department equipment acquisition. We're going to amend the description to read, acquire equipment for Honolulu Police Department operations. So instead of acquisition of replacement, we're doing acquire equipment, okay? Next on page 2 is traffic engineering devices at various locations, which is a language change, including the marked crosswalk, the restoration of a marked crosswalk, and installation of a refuge island at the intersection of North King Street and Kama Lane. So we're changing languages on these two. No amendment, no amount. Accepting, the language changes. Language changes, exception. Okay, any questions? Oh, and funding. Funding for where? Oh, okay. So, so we're also accepting the $600,000 in the Honolulu Police Department equipment acquisition and the $100,000 for the transportation. Page 2, and accepting the language change. Any discussion? Page 3. Okay, sorry, I just have to state that instead of 100,000, it's 50,000. 50,000 on page 2. That's the addition change, okay? Moving forward, page 3. Traffic improvements at various locations. We're accepting just language change. We're not, we're adding $500,000 for top of page 1, and then bottom of page 2. We're accepting language and amending the description. Design, construct, inspect, and provide related equipment for sustainable and resilient traffic signal improvements, including speeding radars near Roosevelt High School on or around the intersection of Nehoa Street and Mott Smith Drive, a left turn phase at the intersection of North King Street turning out to Golick Avenue, and a traffic signal at the intersection of Kapolei Parkway and Kama'aha Ave. Any questions? Nope. Okay, accepting amendments on page 3. Moving forward, page 4. Okay, going back to equipment, procurement of major equipment, Director Kawano has a comment on that.
Thank you, Budget Chair Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. With regard to the equipment section, I just wanted to point out that when we finalize the operating side, if we decide to move equipment back to operating, i.e. parks, we had that long discussion for parks. Once we go through the numbers, the corresponding change would have to be made on the CIP side.
Correct.
So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is noted, and yes. Okay, moving forward, page. Page 4. Okay, a current project, it lapsed, so we're adding it back. Bougainville Drive protective barriers for pedestrian safety. We're accepting the project and amount. Next, we're accepting language change and the total $15,000 added to curb ramps at various locations on Oahu. Next, we're reduction for pedestrian improvements for California Avenue. Next is the acceptance and movement of project from DDC to DTS for the pedestrian improvements for California Avenue. So it's being moved from DDC to DTS. Any questions? Any amendments? Any thoughts? Okay, moving forward, page 5. We're accepting the amendments on page 5 relating to Central Oahu Recycling Facilities Mililani, which plans and design water facility water recycling facilities to serve Central Oahu city facilities such as the Passy T Main Central Oahu Regional Park. So we have 800,000 in federal grants and 200,000 in sewer funds. Next is the wastewater treatment plant pump station and forest main projects reduction in the sewer fund. Any questions? Accepting those amendments on page 5. Next up, page 6, community services. We have plan, design, construct, inspect, and provide equipment for reservations and improvements, including kitchen renovations at 524 Ka'aahi Street, a city-owned property. As you know, we talked about this a little bit in the in the operating budget. I don't know. I know that if there are any amendments that will work after discussing with Councilmember Dos Santos Tam and Director Tashner, we may have further amendments in the FD1. Is that correct? Okay, moving forward, renovations for special needs housing. We're accepting and in creating the new project to read as follows at $1 million. Plan, design, construct, inspect, and provide equipment for renovations for special needs housing. Comments, question members? Page 6, we're accepting it. Next, page 7. We have 2 affordable housing provisos here, and projects, I should say. So for the first one, we are going to amend description to read, provision of funds for the acquisition of land, plan, design, construct, inspect, and other miscellaneous costs for the purpose of developing, constructing, and providing low and moderate income affordable housing, including but not limited to housing for teachers and first responders to address homelessness and any necessary related infrastructure improvements which may be undertaken with public agencies or private entities or developers, and which may include the costs of developing, constructing, and providing mixed income housing projects, or 2, mixed use projects, which may combine low and moderate income affordable housing and mixed income housing with governmental, educational, commercial, cultural, institutional, or industrial uses for the purpose of providing such low and moderate income affordable housing to the extent allowed by law at $50 million. Members, that means we are providing, combining the descriptions for both. Comments, questions? Yes, okay. It was a combination of both the council chairs and council vice chairs. Okay, accepting that, moving forward, page 8. We have the, under Culture and Recreation, under DDC, we have the, we're going to accept the LOI Neighborhood Park Canoe Halau at $1 million for plan, design, construct, and inspect improvements to the Alawai Neighborhood Park Canoe Halau, including but not limited to measures to safeguard the historic canoe. Council Chair, is that Malia? Okay, sir, can you explain this?
Yeah, there's a koa canoe that's priceless right there on the LOI, and this would simply allow the city to reconstruct the halau to protect the canoe.
Okay, understood. Okay, we'll accept that. We are adding $500,000 for Herbert K. Pilila'au Community Park. Sorry, Councilmember DePola, talking a lot today. Kaupuni Neighborhood Park at $100,000. Kiahi Lagoon Beach Park at $1 million, and inclusive of energy conservation and PDES improvements, including but not limited to updating the park master plan, electrical system repairs and upgrades, parking, sound replenishment, and an additional canoe halau. Members, any comments on page 8? Acceptance? No. Okay. Moving forward, page 9. Okay, so we are accepting the project. hold on. Okay, thank you. All right, going back to page 8, since we added the phases of plan, design, construction, inspect, I would like to state that we are going to amend the Herbert K. Pilia'au Community Park as well as Kopuni Neighborhood Park to include plan, design, construct, and inspect into the provisos. Councilor Tupola, is that okay?
Yep, this sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Language, sorry, not proviso, language. 8, moving forward, back to page 9. We're accepting the Kupuohi Neighborhood Park at $200,000. Plan and design. We have plan, design, construct, inspect for Makalapa Neighborhood Park, $200,000. Mananakai, plan, design. Plan and design. Yes, and we're going to accept but create a new project of 2002-051 to read as follows under dog parks. And it will be with the language, plan and design off-leash dog parks in Pearl City. Okay, moving forward, the acceptance and moving this project of Mililani District Park to renovate recreational facilities. Page 9, okay? It's still in the CIP, but moving to another project, okay? Any comments? Page 9, discussion. Page 10, Mililani Mocha District Park improvements. We have plan and design of $200,000. Then we have Moanalua Valley Neighborhood Park, plan design, and construct and inspect related equipment. And then we're going to accept that, but create a new project to read as follows: Moanalua Valley Neighborhood Park, TMK, etc., to plan, design, construct, inspect, and provide related equipment for pickleball courts at Moanalua Valley Neighborhood Park. Next, we are accepting $50,000 for the Newtown Neighborhood Park improvements. Then for the Pearl City District Park, we're going to amend the description, Councilmember Okimoto, because we also have added the phases, plan, design, construct, inspect, and provide equipment. Is that okay? So right now it was just construct and repair. So we're including plan, design, construct, inspect, and provide equipment for repairs at the gymnasium roof and downspouts at Pearl City District Park. Moving forward, any questions, comments? Page 10, okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
I'm just a little concerned just because I appreciate the wording being changed, but in working with parks, that will not be sufficient to provide the resources necessary to fix the roof. So we will probably be offering an amendment, but I can work with you on that. These numbers are the numbers we got in working with the Parks Department.
So is it the amount or is it?
The amount, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but the wording is, I appreciate the wording being changed.
Okay, can the amount also be taken from the bulk if we keep the 2.7, or like if we have the amount in operating, like 151,000 per council district?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll look forward to that discussion. Okay, so we'll keep it for now, Councilmember Okimoto. Okay, page 11. Accepting the language change of, so this is play courts at various parks. The language change is just to add and pickleball courts. That's all. Okay, also on page 11, at $30,000, adding the language for plan, design, construct. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, for recreation, approving the amount and the language change for recreation district number 2 improvements. Approving the language change and amending the description, and then for the third one, accepting the amount and the language change and amending the description to read, design, construct, and inspect and provide related equipment. So we're adding and provide related equipment for sustainable and resilient park improvements, including but not limited to reconstruction of gymnasium, roof, and tennis courts at Kilo. Who keeps turning off my District Park, reconstruction of the walkway at Queens Beach Park, construction of new outdoor court lighting at Palolo Valley District Park, baseball field lighting at a Sing Community Park, and then we're adding the language, field lighting at Kapaulono Community Park, skate park lighting at Mililani District Park, skate park improvements at Wahioa District Park, improvements at, okay, members, we have to recess. We are not getting any access media. I'd like to call the Committee on Budget back to order. Members, I would like to direct us to page 10. Page 10 for Pearl City District Park. There was a reduction of $1 million. I would like to restore it to the proposed amount, amendment amount of $2 million for plan, design, construct, and inspect. And I want to thank the council member for working with DPR on that amount. Okay, we're going to accept that amount, $2 million. Okay. We just for reiteration, since we lost access streaming on the last part of page 11, so we are accepting the amount as well as the language change and amending the description to read, design, construct, and provide related equipment for sustainable and resilient park improvements. And then we're adding field lighting at Kapaulono Community Park, skate park lighting at Mililani District Park, skate park improvements at Wahiawa District Park, various park improvements at Black Rocks Beach Park, various park improvements at Kalaniano'ole Beach Park, and the construction of tot lots, play apparatus, and skate park improvements at various parks. So that's page 11, and that's where we left off. Okay? Moving forward, page 12, we're looking to accept the amount and the language for Waipio Neighborhood Park. We are looking to accept the amount for Honolulu, the amount and amended description for Honolulu Zoo Hawaii Island exhibit. So it includes and construct Hawaii Island exhibit phase 1A improvements. Any questions about that? Any questions? Okay, no. Moving forward to page 13, we're looking to accept the general provisos, section 14. Oh wait, before we move to that, I would like to call up Director Kawano for discussion on the consent decree work for ENV under Department of Environmental Services for consent decree work.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Budget Chair, thank you for a comment I would like to make for your awareness. We're working with ENV on their upcoming revenue bond issuance, and we're updating cash projections. As you know, they use sewer cash in CIP. If you go to the first page of CD1 of Bill 13, 2024, you'll see that they're using more than $200 million of sewer cash for CIP purposes. We may reduce that and change that to revenue bond funded once we finish looking at the projection, because there's going to be a higher demand on cash flow as we move forward, because we're ramping up construction, especially at Sand Island, at the Sand Island Treatment Center. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. A second comment I had was I wanted to thank the board for the additional affordable housing appropriation in CIP. I also wanted to share that we have a lot. It gives us more flexibility. We're appreciative, but we have a lot that was already appropriated for this year and 25 last year. There's more than $200 million, I think, for affordable housing. So, we'll do our best, but it all depends on whether the right opportunities come up, for acquisition and for development. So I wanted to state that. And then lastly, I wanted members for, and budget chair for the ads that we put in for various needs, like Queens Beach at the promenade by the aquarium where the rock wall is falling down, that we have to, replace eventually. And just want to thank you for the quick work on that, things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director, I have a question relating to the ENV discussion. You said that you're looking for projections, but do we know when we'll figure out that information?
We're meeting on, I think, Thursday of this week, later in the week. So by the end of the week, I should be able to let you know if we need a FD1 to adjust the source of funding.
Okay, members, any questions about that possible amendment for the FD1? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know that. Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
I just said, can I make a comment?
Sure, yes.
So, Director Quano, thank you so much. I do know that there has been concerns expressed by some agencies relating to land acquisition or building acquisition. And my comment to that is that even if there's a lot of projects in the queue, I don't believe it's enough to just say we cannot do it. Given the funding stream, if the department lacks the capacity, then they should have the flexibility to contract out to have people work on projects. I guess for me, just given some of the challenges we faced with SB 302, 3202, that was passed by the legislature, I think we need to say what we mean. We cannot say that we are doing everything possible to increase the number of affordable housing units on Oahu when we are providing, the city council is providing the level of funding to get us there, and we are being told that they can't spend it down. So whatever resources is necessary, then get it done. Similar to what DPP is doing by contracting out on the code review section. So if DLM does not have the capacity, given some of their projects, they need to figure that out and either get the staffing necessary or use some of the funds to contract out so they can move forward in acquisition. I just calculated how much funding the 50 million would be. It would be like, for all of us, 5.5 per district. If each of us just look for a parcel that could provide workforce development for our teachers, for our police officers, or our firemen, then we would have done our job. That's all I want to say. It is not enough to say that they don't have the capacity to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great comment. Now I'm just thinking about certain parcels in my district. Okay, we will talk about that later. Okay, moving forward to General Proviso Section 14. Members, you can see on page 13 on the council communication. I'll try to read it. In the event any of the following projects is a type listed in ROH subsection 4-8.3 and is a major public infrastructure project as described in ROH 4-8.4, no land acquisition or construction funds shall be expended or encumbered unless a public infrastructure map amendment is adopted prior to July 1, 2024. Inclusion of a project on this list does not imply, for the purposes of public infrastructure map conformance, the project is of the type listed in ROH 4-8.3 or is a major public infrastructure project as described in ROH 4-8.4. The administration shall provide the council with a detailed description of the specific expenditures made for these projects in the capital improvement projects quarterly status report. So relating to the PIM, and so thank you. I know that admin works and lets us know, but also our council services lets us know what may require a PIM. So with that, we do have added, under public safety, we have HPD headquarters annex, flood control improvements at various locations, drainage outfall improvements, and under highways and streets, drainage improvements at various locations. Then sanitation, we have Waipahu Refuse Facility and Convenience Center, as well as the wastewater treatment plant. I think, is it plant or plant? Pump station and force main projects. One moment. Okay, it is wastewater treatment plan, pump station and force main projects. Under human services, affordable housing, that's what we're adding. And then culture, recreation, including preservation and conservation lands. Members, any discussion? The addition to the functions for the PIM is affordable housing. Any questions? Councilmember Tupola.
So just for clarification, prior to this, there was no PIM for affordable housing? Or are we moving it from a different category?
I think what happened I think it lapsed from 2 years ago, is that correct? Yes, it's because we're adding it to the budget for this CD2 round, and since it wasn't in the proposed or CD1, we need to include it to this version since we're adding it to the CD2.
Got it. So because we referenced it in the CD2, we need a PIN for it.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Committee Vice Chair Wire.
So is the PIM required pursuant to its inclusion in this section of the CIP budget, or is it because it's required by ROH Section 4 already?
I believe that it meets the requirements of a major public infrastructure project at the amount total.
Okay.
Oh, and we also have land money in the language.
Okay. Does this not limit the potential locations that could be used?
Does it limit?
It doesn't. Okay. Because no land acquisition or construction fund shall be expended unless a PIM amendment is adopted prior to July 1st, 2024.
Yeah, that's why we added it to the.
I see.
Mm-hmm. If it was just housing with no government functions or services in it, then we would not need a PIM. But with the addition of such services, then we need the PIM added. But we're adding it to this one, so it has it now.
Okay, I guess my question is to use these funds to acquire land.
Mm-hmm. Will it limit it?
Is this saying there needs to be a PIM on that parcel before the acquisition occurs?
I think on the project, which is the funding, the language funding that we're adding into the CIP right now. So since we're adding human services and then adding affordable housing, which is a 50 million, it already adds a PIM overall.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have to be
like specific, yeah.
Okay. Okay, mahalo. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Okay, that's actually a great question because I know that we had that concern, I think maybe 2 years ago relating to fire stations. Yeah, so. Okay, members, I look to accept that. Members, any questions? Any general discussion? Okay, okay. Members, I'm looking to accept all these amendments and the amounts and language change and any verbal language and amounts that I've made as well. Okay. Moving forward, Chair recommends that Bill 13, 2024 CD1 be amended to CD2 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, the bill has been amended to CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 13 CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Okay, reservations? Oh, no, you're here. Okay, hearing none, so ordered. Councilmember Say is present. Moving forward, agenda item number 6. Bill 14, 2024, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds and bond anticipation notes of the City and County of Honolulu in a maximum principal amount equal to the aggregate of the amounts appropriated in the capital budget ordinance of said City and County for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025, and specified in said ordinance to be financed from the proceeds of the sale of such bonds and be expended from the General Improvement Bond Fund and the Highway Improvement Bond Fund, Solid Waste Improvement Bond Fund, or the Housing Development Special Fund. I will now proceed with remote testifiers. Is there anyone who wishes to testify? I see Angela Young.
Aloha, Budget Committee, Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. Actually, I was trying to testify for the Ocean Safety First Responder Urgent Care Center from the last priority for North Shore, but I think my computer malfunctioned. Okay, so I'll just testify for this. So the Highway Improvement Bond Fund, I'm in strong support of it. It helps with projects to reconstruct sidewalks and then construction of bridges, rehabilitation, storm erosion control improvements, and other programs to support community efforts from downtown to various locations to create safer highways and bridges. Also in support of the Solid Waste Improvement Bond Fund, which supports operations of energy facilities. From an environmental standpoint, because a flaw in the facility design causes environmental pollution, and this is debated at the state with Senate Concurrent Resolution 74. It's good that the city is putting in funding to help improve the quality of health, and I'm curious if Ways and Means is putting in funding, because while the operations of the facility is the city purview, the state manages the health and environmental standards of the facility, such as facility design. So, in strong support.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you very much for your testimony. But also, I saw that you were volunteering really hard at one of the events in the North Shore this past weekend. Thank you very much. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, next. Any persons online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we are now in discussion. We have Director Kawano with us from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services.
Andy Kawano again for the record, Department of Budget and Fiscal Services. No comments on the resolution, or I'm sorry, the bill. I just want to thank council members for moving it along. It's an important process for the purpose of funding capital projects for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward for further discussion on the other parts of the budget. Okay, members, any discussion? Any discussion? Okay. Moving forward, the chair recommends that Bill 14, 2024 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward to Bill 11, 2024 CD1. Is that Bill 11? CD1, approving the legislative budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025. Members, we have an amendment by myself, which adds positions and funding for salaries. At least $75,000 out of salaries shall be appropriated for each council district, except but amend position, count, amend proviso to read at least 1.5 positions shall be authorized, and $75,000 out of salaries shall be appropriated for each council district. This is for council office districts. Members, discussion. I just want to state that, we for the past 2 or 3 years, census tracks that we've seen the growth exponentially of our council districts. I want to share that we have noted that the need for continued outreach and assistance to our council districts. I know that especially my district has grown in land as well as in population growth as well. And I do note that whether or not you decide to staff fully the positions that I'm looking to add, that is on each council office. But I definitely understand that as a former staff myself, that it has grown in the past 12 years that I've been working in the city council, and the needs of the council districts is just growing, and that is my reasoning for this. I'm here to, I want to support all of our council districts. Okay? Okay, thank you. We're looking to accept that. Okay. Members, any other comments on the proposed amendments just for consideration? Council Vice Chair Kia-Aina.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome your amendment, and I just wanted to make some comments about the bill itself as it goes to the floor. I wish I had crafted an amendment, but as I was discussing with my staff the potential real property tax permitted interaction group that will be established after we complete our budget. I think the thought was that even if we addressed the issues of tax exemptions, RPT tax exemptions, as well as the vacancy bill, there really is a need for a more comprehensive study beyond the vacant homes tax for the city's real property tax code, specifically amendments to the real property tax classifications and tiers. And so I just want to let you know that I will likely be crafting an FD1 to this legislative measure. It heads to the floor. And just to give you an idea where my thoughts are, it will have parameters, of course, but the goal, which we discussed in the first PIG, was to provide tax relief to those who need it the most, support housing stability and address housing shortages for local residents and families, fairly allocate tax burdens while also addressing racial and economic inequities, and ensuring, of course, that the city can continue to meet its obligations and growing community needs for city services. And should we adopt this at full city council, my intent, it would be a $1 million amendment. My intent would be to work with the chair's office on the parameters of this study. So I just wanted to talk about it. That's
Okay,
all. I
yeah,
just
we can
wanted
have discussion. Okay, perfect. Yes. So currently it's an addition, so if I could get clarification, an addition of $1 million for
the legislative budget.
Legislative budget to contract
out a study to look at overhauling the city's real property tax code that I don't think even a PIG would be able to do competently. And the current study that's being undertaken by the Real Property Tax Division or Budget and Fiscal Services is narrowly tailored right now to the vacant homes tax.
Okay, all right.
So I
and
just
it would
was
be under
just-
administration.
I'm sorry.
Would you look to adding it to administration?
No, to adding it to the legislative budget bill, and the city council will contract out that study.
Okay, sorry, I meant city council, legislative administration, or do you want it under current expenses?
Oh, I haven't figured that out. I'll work with.
okay.
I'll work with you. Probably the administration. Yeah.
Okay, let's have this discussion. Members, any thoughts? Committee Vice Chair Wire?
Yeah, I would fully support that and acknowledge, I think, the conversation that was had during the prior PIG, I think was, based on, what data was available, but then I think there's a need to better assess the broader, needs of the community. Whoever ends up being on the next PIG, I think having that data available for the whole council would also be useful, right? And so whatever product is able to be achieved from, consultants or folks that can look at the data and the numbers to ensure that, the processes that we go through are fully informed, I think that would be, great and welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. This just came up today, but I really like the idea because if you may recall during our last permitted interaction group, there was probably about 30 different ideas on the table, ranging from providing a home exemption for folks who are willing to rent out their properties long-term, which is something that I really liked, but it was difficult figuring out how much that would cost. And if we're going to do a complete overhaul of the tax system, I think we need experts to help us to do exactly that. But the other thing I'd like to figure out is how do we lower taxes for local people so that they can live here and survive and they don't have to leave? How do we do that? Through amending our tax system. And while I trust and enjoy working with everybody here at this table in this room, I think a complete overhaul is something that we need help doing. So I support it. I have no idea how much this would cost. And between now and full council, I'll be happy to look into that just to see. I think Vice Chair is basing that on the $500,000 that was allocated and requested and allocated by the administration for the vacancy tax. And when they proposed 500,000, I thought that was crazy. But what we're doing is looking at the entire overhaul of the entire tax system. So I can see that that might be an appropriate number. But again, I'm happy to look into this going forward before we actually make the dollar request.
Okay, so not looking to do it today or looking to do it now?
No,
We can do,
for full council, because I don't have the verbiage. I guess I was worried about having a verbiage that would be limiting, so I thought if the chair was open to having this amendment be considered at full council.
okay. Okay, we can look at that.
Because otherwise, it would be very generic. And so if you don't mind, because our numbers might be off as well.
That's true. That's true.
So Chair, do you, maybe we could look at, I want to get it right. Would you be open to a floor draft when this moves to full council?
Okay. All right, members, any other discussion on looking at this moving forward? Council members say.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Kiana's point is well taken, but don't the council members forget we have a tax review commission that did make recommendations, and the issue that they had was basically the issue: will the council have the courage to make those hard decisions once the study is completed? That is the key, because once you do a major overhaul, and it's going to cost the taxpayers $1 million or $500,000, I can't see it. I just can't see it. Not unless, Chair, we're all part of HSAC. If HSAC would be the one to hire a tax consultant in coming up with a plan for all 4 counties, so that maybe we do have a standardized real property tax structure. Yes, the 4 counties are different, but if I was to support this, my only amendment to it was that whatever the study comes out with, we all buy in. We buy in, either in or out. That's the frustration I've had this year. Why? Oh, last year. How many years did it take this council to address, quote unquote, what we supported on behalf of the council members here and the future council members? 16 years. And I hope this particular study will have the buy-in whereby whatever comes out as the recommendations, we are all up. I know I can't obligate the new members that come on board, but it is an issue. And that's where I've been trying to say, Chair, I didn't have the opportunity of the bill I had introduced 3 years ago, so I just bring that up for consideration too.
Committee Vice Chair Wire.
No, I want to just share those sentiments because I agree that we do have a lot of, we have the commissions, we have the departments, and a lot of resources in terms of, the policymaking role that we play. I think one of the struggles, though, that at least our office has had is just to maybe provide the full analysis. And so I do think having a broader set of data and information that could inform the bills that we'd be voting on would be really helpful. And so I do see it from that perspective, that it's just ensuring that we're all able to make a fully informed decision. Because even if a pig is formed, whoever's on that pig, all 9 of us would then
I would narrowly tailor it to Oahu.
Okay, understood. Once again, we're not adding any money. We're just having this discussion for a possible amendment in the FD1. Okay, members, any questions? Okay, members, there's no other proposed being registered online testifiers. Is there anyone online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, closing online testimony. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we are closing testimony. Okay. Thanks. The chair recommends that Bill 11, 2024, CD1 be amended to a CD2 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today, makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? The bill has been amended to a CD2. Oh, okay, moving back, reservations by Councilmember Say. The bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 11, 2024, CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Reservations by Councilmember Say here and none others so ordered. With that, there being no further business. Oh, before I finish, Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
First of all, I just wanted to thank you before this heads to the full council, because during the budget is very difficult and tiring. So I want to thank you and your staff, Office of Council Services, the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, and our clerk's office and Corporation Council for navigating through this. It's very difficult. So I know that during this period, you guys give up a lot of sleeping hours to get this done. So I just want to thank you and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you all to your all council members and your staffs as well. And to all of our legislative branch, thank you all. Okay, moving forward, are there any announcements, any questions? Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day. Any announcements, anything? No? Okay, all right. Well, we'll see each other again on Wednesday. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.